Be me. This starts a long time ago when I thought I already had life figured out. Small town Ohio. Everyone knows everyone. You wave even if you don't like the person. Most girls marry the guy they dated in homeroom and start posting baby photos before 25. I wasn't going to be that girl. Teachers called me college material. Straight A's, debate team, volunteering at the library just to pad applications. Every move I made had one purpose. Get out. Mom stayed home with us. Me, my brother Ben, my little sister Kara. She ironed Dad's work shirts, clipped coupons, made dinner at 5:30 sharp. They were solid, gentle people, but I looked at their routine like it was quicksand. Senior year, Mom suggested, you could do 2 years at OSU Mansfield, save money, live at home. I remember actually laughing. I can't stay here, Mom. There's nothing for me here. I applied everywhere out of state and landed a full ride in Chicago. Communications major, women's studies minor. The day that letter came, I packed before I even told anyone. Chicago felt like oxygen after holding my breath for 18 years. Classes on gender theory, media, power dynamics, it all clicked. I finally had words for why my mother's life felt like a warning sign. Everyone I met talked about ambition and freedom. Girls in my dorm swore they'd never settle. We joked that husbands were accessories, not goals. It sounded bold, revolutionary, alive. For the first time, I wasn't the odd one out for not daydreaming about rings and nurseries. Then there was Daniel. We'd dated since junior year of high school, the classic small-town love story. He was polite to my parents, remembered my coffee order, picked me wildflowers in summer. When I left for college, he stayed behind, got a steady job at an insurance office, bought an old pickup he planned to restore. We kept in touch. He'd text after my exams. Proud of you, kiddo. I'd send pictures of the city skyline, tell him how busy I was. That winter break, we met for coffee. Just to catch up, and somehow it turned back into dating. He'd drive 5 hours after work on Fridays, roll up outside my dorm with that same pickup and a paper bag full of Buckeyes from our hometown candy shop. I'd tease him about still living there, and he'd grin like it didn't bother him. He called me his girl. I pretended not to like it, but secretly did. He was gentle in ways that felt too easy. He'd ask, "Are you eating enough? You getting sleep?" He mailed my mom flowers on Mother's Day with my name on the card, because I forgot. When my laptop died the week before finals, he Venmo'd me half the repair bill before I even asked. But the more thoughtful he was, the more restless I felt. He'd talk about buying land, a dog. Someday when we have kids, I'd nod, but inside it felt like a door closing. One night, after dinner at this little diner near campus, he said quietly, "I can really see us together long term. You and me, building something." I remember my stomach tightening. It wasn't a proposal, just a simple, hopeful thought. And still, I couldn't breathe. The next week, I told him I couldn't do it anymore, that we were on different paths. He looked stunned. "Is there someone else?" "No," I said. "I just can't picture that life." He drove home that night, sent one last text the next morning. "You'll do great things. Just take care of yourself, okay?" I stared at it for a while, then deleted the thread. I cried for 10 minutes, maybe less, then opened a bottle of cheap rosé and called Maya, my new best friend from campus. Told her I'd ended it. She said, "Good. You're too smart to chain yourself this early." I repeated that line to myself until it felt true. By senior year, I had a job offer waiting. A sleek PR firm downtown with a view of the lake and people who used words like strategy and impact as if they meant something. They gave me a business card with my name in silver foil. I told myself that was real accomplishment. I didn't even go home that year. Maya and I rented a tiny north side apartment, exposed brick, terrible plumbing, perfect lighting for Instagram pics. We drank discount wine out of mugs, made vision boards, listened to podcasts about protecting your energy. Our friend Lena got a tattoo that said, "Me first" in cursive. We thought it was genius. We rolled our eyes at engagement posts and baby shower invites. When people asked if I wanted kids, I laughed. No, God, no. I have plans. I didn't hate my family. I just didn't want their lives. It all looked too quiet, too small. I wanted more. And back then, I truly believed I'd found it. By the time I hit 30, I was the youngest director of communications my firm had ever promoted. I had my own office with floor-to-ceiling windows, a business-class Amex, and an assistant who ordered my almond milk lattes before I walked in. I told myself this was everything I'd worked for. My apartment was on the 21st floor, overlooking the lake. Modern, bright, cold. I'd wake up, check my phone, skim the news, post something witty on LinkedIn about breaking barriers, then hurry into 12-hour days filled with presentations and client calls. I liked the rush. The constant motion made me feel important. On weekends, Maya and I would meet for drinks or go to some book club/networking event where everyone wore neutral colors and talked about burnout like it was a badge of honor. Lena usually joined, still single, still proud. We told each other we were doing life right, staying free, staying sharp. Dating was a rotation. There was a filmmaker who lived out of a studio apartment and said commitment was a social construct. A political organizer who texted nonstop but ghosted for weeks whenever a protest took him to another city. A startup guy who said he was poly but emotionally available. They all sounded impressive when I introduced them, but none stayed. Then there was Chris. We met at a client dinner, one of those dull networking things where everyone pretends to like salmon and talks about quarterly growth. He worked in project management for one of our partner firms. Button-down shirt, calm voice, clean haircut. Not flashy, not trying too hard. He asked for my card at the end of the night, said maybe we could grab coffee sometime. I said sure, not thinking much of it. Our first date was simple, a small Italian place a few blocks from my apartment. He showed up on time, held the door, didn't check his phone once. He asked questions that were real, like where I wanted to be in 10 years. I told him I didn't believe in planning that far ahead. Life's too unpredictable. He just smiled and said, "Some things are worth planning for." I remember thinking he was sweet but kind of old-fashioned, like he didn't get how the world worked now. But I kept seeing him. He'd bring breakfast on Sundays, eggs from the farmer's market, actual flowers. He fixed a loose cabinet hinge in my kitchen once without me asking. Told me I was working too much. He'd say, "You don't have to keep proving yourself every second, Ava." I liked that he noticed me. I liked that he cared. But I also hated how safe it felt. One night after dinner, we were walking back to my place. He stopped outside the door and said, "You know, I've deleted the apps. I don't really want to see anyone else." I laughed before I could stop myself. "Chris, that's kind of serious, isn't it?" He looked surprised. "I mean, yeah. Isn't that the point? We've been seeing each other for months." I tried to make it sound casual. "You're great, but I don't really want to label things right now. I like how it is." He frowned a little. "You don't want something that builds." That word, builds, made me cringe. It sounded like mortgages and grocery lists and all the things I thought I'd escaped. "I'm just not in that phase," I told him. "I've got a lot happening at work, and I'm trying to stay open. I don't want to shrink my life down for anyone." He didn't argue. just nodded, paid the check, and walked me home. Before he left, he said quietly, "You're going to find what you're looking for." I just don't think it's me. I went upstairs, poured a drink, and told myself it was fine, that I'd dodged something heavy, that I wasn't meant to be tied down right now. The next night, I met Lena for drinks and told her the whole story. "Ugh," she said, rolling her eyes. "He sounds like the type who buys a grill and starts talking about property taxes." I laughed too hard at that. Exactly. I'm not trying to play house. I'm not my mum. We ordered another round, posted pictures, tagged each other. Independent women, cheers to freedom. Chris didn't call again. I told myself it was better that way. I had projects, travel, a full life. Commitment felt like surrender. I didn't realize until much later that he wasn't asking me to surrender anything. He was just offering something real. But at the time, I thought I'd won. While this was going on, another bit of news shocked me. My younger sister Cara was getting married. Before me? She was 29, younger than me by 6 years, and the first in our family to have a real wedding. Big outdoor thing at a renovated barn, all strung with fairy lights and mason jars. Everyone wore pastel. I went because I had to, not because I wanted to. The whole day felt like a performance to me. Hashtag signs, chalkboard menus, a cookie table. I remember whispering to Maya over text, "Pinterest exploded out here." She replied with a laughing emoji. I told that joke later at work and everyone laughed. But when the ceremony started, something hit different. Cara came down the aisle, and for a second she didn't look like my little sister anymore. She looked calm, like someone who'd stopped running. And when she reached her husband, Ben, not my brother, same name, he smiled at her the way people do when they know exactly where they belong. During the reception, he kept his hand on the small of her back whenever they moved through the crowd. Not possessive, just natural. She'd glance up at him and smile like it was the easiest thing in the world. I told myself it was all fake, a show for Instagram. But the way they looked at each other, it didn't feel staged. When I got back to Chicago, I couldn't stop replaying it. Her dress, the way everyone hugged them, how relaxed she seemed. The kind of peace you can't buy. So I did what I always did when I started to feel anything. I drowned it in work. Extra hours, new projects, flights to conferences. My schedule was proof I was still winning. A few weeks later, Mom called and said, "You should come for Sunday dinner." Cara and Ben are bringing the baby's ultrasound pictures. I told her I had a pitch meeting Monday and couldn't get away. She said softly, "You always have a meeting, Ava." That line stuck longer than I wanted it to. By the holidays, I stopped going home altogether. I said travel was expensive, but really, I didn't want to sit in a living room full of families and feel like the extra chair. From the outside, everything still looked great. New wardrobe, new clients, rooftop photos. But I started noticing the silence more. Cara posted baby updates. Maya started dating someone seriously, and I realized no one reached out unless I did first. Sunday nights got quiet. I'd pour a glass of wine, scroll until my eyes hurt, and tell myself this was the price of success. And maybe it was. Or maybe it was just the first bill coming due. Things were kind of stagnant for some time after that. I used to love Sundays. They were my reset days. Grocery run, gym, fresh flowers for the counter, maybe a glass of wine while I answered emails. Lately, Sundays just feel like proof that no one's thinking about me. Maya moved to Seattle for a new job. Lena started dating a guy seriously and barely texted anymore. Kara's kids were old enough to make homemade cards for my birthday, but I hadn't seen them in person for over a year. Mom sent photos of them playing in the yard, captions like, "They miss you." I'd heart the text and tell myself I'd visit soon. I never did. Work was still fine, but the shine was gone. The firm had brought in younger talent, girls 10 years behind me who called me ma'am in emails. They were hungry, quick, cheaper. I trained them, watched them get opportunities I thought were mine. One day, my boss introduced a new hire to a client as Ava's protege, and the word lodged somewhere in my throat. That same week, an invite came, a mutual friend's wedding back in Ohio. I hadn't been to one since carers. At first, I ignored it. Then I saw the guest list and froze at one name. Daniel Hale. I almost deleted the email, but curiosity beat pride. I went. The wedding was in the same kind of countryside venue I used to mock. Open field, soft music, fairy lights. When I arrived, I felt overdressed in city black, surrounded by pastels and denim jackets. Then I saw him. Daniel looked older, sure, but in that unfair way. Men do. Tan, confident, settled. His wife stood beside him, a woman with soft eyes and a kind smile. She had that gentle glow I used to call boring, but now just looked peaceful. 2 kids clung to his legs, a boy maybe 7, a little girl around 5. He spotted me across the crowd. For a second our eyes met. He smiled, small and polite, like he'd seen an old neighbor. When the ceremony ended, I ran into him near the drink table. He said, "Ava, wow, it's been years." I laughed, said, "At least 10. He nodded. "You look great. Chicago must be treating you well." "It keeps me busy," I said, trying to sound light. His wife walked up, introduced herself, Megan. She shook my hand, genuinely kind. Daniel put his arm around her waist, casual, protective. The little girl tugged his sleeve, whispering something, and he knelt to listen, smiling the whole time. I felt something twist in my chest. Not love, exactly. More like envy wrapped in shame. I asked, "So 2 kids?" "Yeah," he said proudly. "They're wild, but they're everything." He didn't ask if I had any, just smiled and said, "You always were the ambitious one." We talked a few minutes more, surface level, then someone called his name. Before he left, he said, "It's really good to see you happy." I wanted to say I was, but the word stuck. I stayed for another drink, watched them dance later, Daniel spinning his daughter under the string lights while his wife laughed beside them. The music faded in and out, but that picture didn't. When I got back to Chicago, the city felt louder than usual, like static. Mom called that week. "I saw the pictures online," she said. "Looked like a beautiful wedding." "Yeah," I muttered. "You know," she added softly, "you could come visit." "Your dad's knee's been acting up. Kara's due any day now." "I've got a big client launch," I said. She sighed. "You always have a launch." A few months later, Dad had surgery. I didn't fly home. Sent flowers. Called once. Kara texted, "He keeps asking when you're coming." I told her I was slammed with deadlines. She replied with one sentence. "We all have deadlines, Ava." That one hurt. By 39, the job that once thrilled me felt like a treadmill I couldn't step off. Even the big wins, new contracts, public praise, lasted maybe a day before fading. Younger co-workers started hanging out after hours without me. I'd scroll through their posts, rooftop selfies, laughter, inside jokes, realizing I'd become the one giving polite smiles from a distance. Dating felt worse. Apps were exhausting. Men my age divorced and cynical. Younger ones only curious. I went on a few dinners. Nothing stuck. Everyone seemed distracted, just like me. One Friday night, after cancelling another date, I microwaved leftovers and flipped through channels. Landed on some home renovation show. Couple laughing while they picked paint colours for a nursery. I stared at the screen until it blurred, not sure if I was jealous or just tired. Around midnight, I opened Facebook and found Daniel's page. Public profile, recent photo, him and his kids on a camping trip, grinning under a blue tent. Caption read, "Best weekend ever." His wife had commented a heart. I closed the laptop and sat in the dark. The apartment hummed. Fridge, traffic, nothing else. For the first time, the silence didn't feel peaceful. It felt earned. A few weeks later, I finally went home. No reason really, just felt like I should. Mom sounded surprised when I called. "Well, we'd love to see you." "Sunday dinner, like old times?" "Sure," I said, as if it was no big deal. The drive felt longer than I remembered. The closer I got, the smaller everything looked. Same fields, same gas station, same peeling sign for the diner where Daniel used to pick me up. For years I told myself I'd outgrown this place. Now it just felt like something I'd misplaced. Mom hugged me tight at the door. She'd gone grayer, but still smelled like laundry soap. Kara showed up later with the kids. 2 now, both loud and sticky, running circles around the living room. Her husband grilled out back while Dad watched from a lawn chair, leg wrapped in a brace. It should have been comforting. It just made me restless. "Still at that big job in Chicago?" Dad asked between bites. "Yeah, still running things," he smiled. "Always knew you would," Kara laughed. "We can't all be city hotshots." I smirked. "Trust me, it's not as glamorous as it looks." They went on swapping stories, school drop-offs, yard projects, vacations, little things that filled their days. I nodded at the right moments, but the more they talked, the more I felt like a guest in a language I used to speak. After dinner, Mom brought out old photo albums. One shot stopped me. Daniel and me at prom, his arm around me looking right at the camera like I already knew I was leaving. Kara leaned over my shoulder. "You two were cute." I shrugged. "Yeah. Ancient history." She smiled. "He's doing good, you know. Built a house not far from here." "Good for him," I said, flipping the page too fast. Later, when everyone went outside for dessert, I stayed in the kitchen rinsing plates. The window looked out over the yard, Kara chasing her kids, her husband lighting sparklers, Mom laughing from the porch. I told myself I was happy for them. I said it out loud, just to hear it. "I'm happy for them." The words sounded fine, maybe even true. When I left, Mom packed leftovers and hugged me twice. "Don't be a stranger," she said softly. "I won't," I lied. The highway back to Chicago was empty. I drove with the windows down, night air heavy with cut grass and something else I couldn't name. Halfway home, I stopped for gas and scrolled through my phone. Kara had already posted a photo. Kids with sparklers, captioned "Perfect Night." I stared at it longer than I should have, then double-tapped the heart. Back in the car, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. Same face, sharper eyes, the kind that look like they've seen everything except what matters. I whispered, mostly to convince myself I wouldn't change a thing. Then I turned up the radio so I wouldn't have to hear how quiet it sounded.